It wasn't supposed to repeat. In 1977, a narrow radio signal exploded through deep space static and lasted exactly 72 seconds. It was detected by the Big Ear telescope in Ohio while scanning near the hydrogen frequency, the universal marker many scientists believe alien civilizations would use to communicate. Astronomer Jerry Emmons circled the spike in red ink and wrote one word beside it. Wow. The signal was strong, focused, artificial in appearance, but it never came back. For decades, scientists searched that exact region of space. Nothing. No echo, no follow-up, no explanation. The case quietly became a legend, the greatest unsolved signal in astronomical history. Until a machine learning filter accidentally found something buried in old data. In a university observatory archive, researcher Mark Halpern was running an AI model designed to eliminate satellite interference from radio surveys. Instead of removing noise, it highlighted a repeating anomaly. At first glance, it looked insignificant, faint pulses lost in cosmic background radiation. But when Mark isolated the frequency range, his pulse quickened. The structure matched the 1977 signal. Same narrowband spike, same proximity to the hydrogen line, same unnatural clarity. Only this time it wasn't one burst. It was repeating, every 12 hours. Short, sharp transmissions, 5 seconds long, then silence. The pattern continued for 5 days. Then it vanished. Mark reported the anomaly immediately. His supervisor insisted it was likely terrestrial contamination, military radar, satellite bleed, atmospheric distortion. So Mark checked, again and again. No satellites aligned with the sky coordinates, no aircraft interference, no classified orbital paths. The pulses were coming from deep space, and they were deliberate. Before the data could be prepared for publication review, something unexpected happened. The flagged files were restricted, not erased, not corrected, reclassified, under a label no one at the observatory recognized. Transient Pattern 3. When Mark tried to request access clarification, he was told the data had been escalated to a federal partner agency for independent analysis. No further details were provided. 2 days later, 2 officials arrived on campus. They weren't astronomers. They weren't academics. They asked only one question. Who else has seen this data set? That was the moment Mark realized something was very wrong, because the pulses had just returned, stronger than before, and this time, the frequency shifted mid-transmission. Natural cosmic sources don't adjust like that, but something intelligent might. The pulses didn't just return, they improved. When the anomaly alert flashed again, Mark was already waiting in the control room. The waveform appeared, sharp, narrow, almost identical to the original burst. But halfway through the transmission, something changed. The frequency shifted, not randomly, smoothly, like it was correcting itself. Natural space phenomena don't do that. Pulsars spin, quasars flare, but they don't adjust with precision timing. This signal did. Mark ran a spectral breakdown. The burst held steady for 2 seconds, drifted upward in exact intervals, then snapped back to baseline. The pattern repeated 3 times before cutting out. Structured. His supervisor stared at the screen, silent. If that's not interference, he whispered, then it's engineered. Within hours, federal research authorities were notified. The data feed was transferred through encrypted channels. Mark wasn't included in the discussion, just told to monitor and record. Then someone on the secure call asked, "Has any outbound transmission ever been sent on this frequency?" No one answered clearly. That question changed everything. At 3:14 a.m., the signal returned stronger than before, this time lasting nearly 20 seconds. Inside the carrier wave, Mark noticed tiny spikes grouped in precise spacing. 8 units. Pause. 8 again. He converted the spacing into binary. The output wasn't random noise. It formed prime numbers. Prime numbers are universal. Any advanced civilization would understand them. It's the simplest mathematical proof of intelligence. Mark felt his throat tighten. This wasn't static. It wasn't coincidence. It was communication. Before he could continue decoding, the lights flickered. The monitors shut down abruptly, replaced by emergency red glow. Outside the observatory windows, black vehicles rolled silently into the parking lot. The signal had stopped again, but it had left a message, and someone clearly didn't want it analyzed. The officials didn't introduce themselves. Two men in dark suits stepped into the control room before sunrise. No badges displayed, no agency mentioned. They moved with quiet certainty, like they already owned the building. "Step away from the terminal," one of them said calmly. Mark complied. They didn't accuse him of anything. They didn't threaten him. They simply requested all locally stored copies of the anomaly files. Requested, but it didn't feel optional. One agent connected a secure drive and began transferring data without asking for passwords. They already had clearance codes. That meant this wasn't sudden. They'd been watching. Before leaving, one of them asked the same question from the call the night before. "Did you transmit anything back?" Mark shook his head. "No." The agent studied him carefully, like measuring truth by breathing patterns. "Good," he replied. After they left, the observatory felt different. Quieter. Controlled. Word spread that the anomaly had been classified under a federal astrophysics security review. Official explanation: equipment malfunction. Unofficial reality: silence. But Mark hadn't told them everything. When the monitors shut down during the power flicker, his personal laptop had still been recording on backup battery. A compressed version of the final 20-second burst was saved locally. He waited until nightfall before reopening it. The embedded binary clusters were clearer now. Prime numbers, yes, but also spacing variations between sets. Larger gaps separated certain groups, almost like punctuation. He mapped the sequence visually. The primes increased, then stopped. The next pattern wasn't numerical. It repeated in a mirrored structure. Forward. Pause. Reverse. Like a reflection. Mark overlaid a sky map using the signal source coordinates and tracked the subtle frequency drift direction. His breathing slowed. The drift wasn't random adjustment. It was alignment. The signal was correcting toward Earth's orbital movement. It was targeting, not broadcasting blindly, but tracking. His screen suddenly froze. A new notification appeared that hadn't existed before. External access detected. Remote session active. Someone was inside his system, watching in real time. Then a single message flashed across the monitor. "Stop decoding." The text vanished instantly. Outside, in the distance beyond the observatory hill, headlights turned off simultaneously. The signal hadn't just sent mathematics. It knew someone was listening, and now it was responding. Mark didn't shut the laptop. He pulled the internet cable instead. The remote session notification had disappeared, but that didn't mean the connection was gone. Whoever accessed his system had done it silently, without triggering standard security logs. That meant federal-level access, or something beyond it. His hands were steady now. Fear had shifted into focus. If the signal was aligning with Earth's orbit, then it wasn't just correcting drift. It was accounting for planetary motion, compensating for rotation, trajectory, velocity. That required observation, precise observation. Mark reopened the sky map overlay and calculated the angular correction rate. The drift matched Earth's orbital speed almost exactly. The transmission wasn't aimed randomly into space. It was narrowing, pointing at Earth. His phone vibrated. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. A calm voice spoke. "You need to stop analyzing that data set." "Who is this?" Mark asked. Pause. "You've already proven it's structured. That's enough." The line went dead. Proven. That word echoed in his head. Not suspected. Not theorized. Proven, meaning others had reached the same conclusion. Mark returned to the binary sequence and ran a deeper pattern correlation. The prime clusters increased steadily, but after the last set, something subtle appeared. A timing gap longer than the rest. He measured it. Exactly 8.3 seconds. He froze. That number wasn't random. 8.3 minutes is the time sunlight takes to reach Earth. Scaled down, 8.3 seconds. Signal travel compression. Reference marker. He quickly checked astronomical distance estimates from the source coordinates. Based on hydrogen line strength and signal decay, the transmission origin was likely dozens, maybe hundreds, of light years away. Which meant what he was seeing now had been sent long ago, long before Earth developed radio telescopes capable of receiving it. Unless it wasn't the first transmission. Unless Earth had responded decades earlier without public knowledge. His screen flickered again, this time not from hacking, but from the telescope feed. Live detection alert. The pulses were back, stronger than ever, and now the intervals between bursts were shrinking, like a countdown. The new burst hit harder than the last. Alarms activated across the observatory as the signal intensity spiked beyond previous levels. What had once been faint pulses buried in cosmic static was now clean, powerful, undeniable. Other observatories began detecting it too. Within minutes, encrypted astronomy networks lit up with confirmations from Chile, Australia, and Spain. The source coordinates matched exactly. It wasn't local interference. It wasn't classified equipment noise. It was real. Mark's screen displayed the tightening intervals between bursts. 12 hours had become 6. 6 had become 1. Now the gap was minutes. Each transmission lasted slightly longer than the previous one. And embedded inside the carrier wave, the prime sequences had expanded. But something else had changed. After the final prime cluster, a new pattern appeared, not numerical. Geometric. Mark converted the spacing into a visual grid. Dots formed lines. Lines formed angles. It resembled a simple structure, almost like a diagram. He overlaid the image with Earth's orbital map. The shape aligned with the inner solar system. Mercury, Venus, Earth. The final point pulsed brighter than the rest. Earth's position. His chest tightened. It wasn't just targeting Earth anymore. It was marking it. His phone vibrated again. Same unknown number. This time the voice sounded less calm. "You need to leave that building now." "Why?" Mark demanded. A pause. Then 4 words. "Because it's not far." The call ended. Outside, thunder rolled, though the sky was clear. Mark looked back at the monitor. The intervals between pulses had dropped to 30 seconds. Not random bursts, not communication attempts. Something closer to synchronization. Then the observatory's satellite feed cut abruptly. Power grids flickered across 3 nearby counties. Air traffic control temporarily lost radar lock for 12 seconds. 12 seconds, the same length as the first expanded pulse. This wasn't just a distant message anymore. It was interacting with Earth's systems. Testing response. Mark swallowed hard as the next burst began forming on screen. The waveform was sharper now, cleaner, and at the center of it, buried beneath mathematical precision, a repeating modulation pattern emerged. 3 short pulses. 3 longer pulses. 3 short again. He didn't need to translate it. It was Morse code. And it was universal. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short, over and over. Mark stared at the waveform, his mouth dry.
SOS!
The most universal distress signal in human history. But this wasn't coming from Earth. It was coming from something light years away. The bursts intensified, distorting nearby satellite feeds again. Reports flooded encrypted astronomy channels, GPS drift errors, brief communication blackouts, unexplained magnetic fluctuations. It wasn't an attack. It was interference caused by sheer signal strength. Mark forced himself to think clearly. If this was a distress call, it meant one of 2 things. Either an advanced civilization was in danger, or something else was. He pulled up the earlier prime number sequence and overlaid the geometric solar map again. The final pulsing point, Earth, blinked brighter with each repetition of SOS. The signal wasn't just marking Earth. It was aligning with it, matching planetary rotation, synchronizing with terrestrial frequency bands. Then the prime pattern changed. Instead of increasing upward, it began counting down. Not random, structured. A reverse sequence. A timer. Mark calculated the rate. Based on the shrinking intervals and descending primes, the countdown would reach 0 in just under 4 hours. His phone rang again. No voice this time. Just a recorded message. "Evacuation protocols initiated. Leave immediately." Evacuation? For a radio signal? Outside, emergency vehicles moved along the highway below the observatory hill. Not military, civil defense. Whatever agency had been monitoring this had escalated it beyond secrecy. Mark looked back at the screen as the next burst fired. The SOS stopped. For the first time since the transmissions began, silence filled the room. Then a final sequence appeared. Short pulse. Pause. Single long sustained tone. Longer than any previous burst, it held steady for nearly 15 seconds before cutting out completely. Every monitor went dark. Total blackout. No backup lights. No emergency red glow. Just silence. Outside, the stars flickered, not visibly, but on detection arrays worldwide. And then, nothing. Power returned seconds later. The sky was calm. The signal was gone. All global systems stabilized. Official reports later called it a rare atmospheric ionization anomaly combined with satellite cascade failure. Case closed. But Mark knew what he saw. The countdown had reached 0, and whatever had been synchronizing with Earth had stopped at the exact moment full alignment was achieved. Not destroyed, not completed, aligned. 3 weeks later, deep space monitoring arrays picked up something new, not from the original coordinates, but from much closer. Inside our own solar system, a faint repeating pulse, waiting,